Okay, so what if I told you that the most popular self-help tool for achieving your dreams is actually the very thing preventing you from getting them? For years, we've all been told to visualize our goals, right? But what if that advice is flat out wrong for like 95% of people? Let's dive into why that might be.
So here's the thing. The very act of visualization can set up this trap. It kind of turns you into a spectator in your own life. You're sitting in the audience watching this beautiful movie of your future success play out, but you never actually get on stage and live it. It keeps your desires at a distance, always something you want, never something you are.
So why does this happen? Well, think about it. You sit down to visualize, let's say, $1 million. It feels good for a moment. But then you open your eyes and you see the stack of bills in your actual bank account. Your subconscious mind gets a really, really clear message. That was a nice fantasy, but this is reality. You end up just constantly reinforcing the feeling of lacking what you want, and that creates this painful gap between you and your goal.
This right here really lays out the core difference. On the one side, you've got visualization. That's all about watching your goal. You're a spectator, and all it does is reinforce that feeling of wanting. But on the other side, you have something called assumption. This is about living your goal. You become a participant. It reinforces the feeling of already having, and it pulls you out of some future fantasy and into a present reality.
This powerful alternative comes from the philosopher Neville Goddard, and he called it the law of assumption. The whole idea is built on this fundamental shift in your identity. It's about moving from that endless, frustrating cycle of I want, to the incredible power of just, I am.
So the key concept here is this idea of living from the end. Now, this isn't just wishful thinking. It's about mentally and emotionally moving into the state where your desire is already a done deal. It's a finished fact. You stop thinking of the goal way out there in the future. Instead, you start thinking from the goal, as if you're already there looking back. And this quote just brilliantly sums up the whole idea. I mean, think about it for a second. You don't wake up in the morning and spend 10 minutes visualizing having hands, do you? No, of course not, because you just know you have them. They are a part of you. The goal is to get your desire to that same level of just natural knowing. You don't just visualize it, you assign it to yourself as a present tense fact.
Okay, I know this might sound a little abstract, so let's ground it in a really compelling real-life story from Neville Goddard himself. This is the story of how he used this exact principle to go from absolute rock bottom to paradise.
So picture this. It's New York City during the Great Depression. Neville is a dancer. He's totally broke, no job, and he has this one overwhelming desire: to go home to his family in Barbados for Christmas. By any logical measure, it's completely impossible. So he goes to his mentor, a man named Abdullah, who gives him this bizarre, totally counterintuitive instruction. He doesn't say, go home and visualize a boat ticket. He says, you are already in Barbados. When you go to bed tonight, don't fall asleep in New York City. You must fall asleep in your family's home in Barbados.
Let's break down exactly what he did, night after night. First, he assumed the feeling of being in his mother's bed back home, not his little cot in New York. Then, he engaged his senses. He imagined hearing the tropical sounds of the island, smelling the salty ocean air. He started to mentally look at his life in New York from the perspective of someone already in Barbados. And this is the most important part. He drifted off to sleep while completely immersed in that new reality. And what was the result? After just a few days of doing this, an unexpected letter shows up. It's from his brother, and inside is a steamship ticket to Barbados. And here's the kicker. He was supposed to be in third class, but a last-minute cancellation bumped him all the way up to first class. His outer reality literally had to rearrange itself to match his sustained inner state. Okay, that's an amazing story. But the real question is, how do we make this work for us? Let's shift into a practical daily guide, something you can start doing today.
It's really just a simple 3-part routine. In the morning, before you even open your eyes, the very first thing you do is capture the feeling of your wish already being real. Then, during the day, you do your best to carry that feeling with you. You think and act from that state of already having it. And then in the evening, you use a very specific technique to plant that seed deep into your subconscious mind as you fall asleep.
And that evening technique is called SATS. It just stands for state akin to sleep.
So in that drowsy, super suggestible state, right before you fall asleep, you create a very short first-person scene. The real key here is that the scene has to imply your wish is already done, and it should feel like you're remembering something that already happened. For instance, you could imagine a friend shaking your hand and saying, "Congratulations!" And you just loop that tiny scene, that feeling, over and over until you drift off.
All right, now for what is probably the biggest challenge. What on earth do you do when you're holding this new inner feeling, but your outer world, your current reality, is screaming the exact opposite? This is the point where most people get discouraged and give up.
Here's the secret. You have to think of your physical world as a mirror, but a mirror with a time delay. What you see around you right now, it isn't a reflection of your current state of being. No, it's a delayed reflection of your past dominant thoughts, your past assumptions. It's old news.
And this analogy just makes it all click. If you look in a real mirror and see a frown on your face, you don't start yelling at the reflection, trying to force it to change. That'd be crazy, right? You know instinctively that you have to smile first. You have to change the source. And it's the exact same with this. You have to be the one to change your inner state and then hold it with faith, knowing that the mirror of reality has absolutely no choice but to eventually catch up and reflect that new you back to you.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if your current circumstances, what if they aren't a solid prison that's trapping you? What if it's all just an old, outdated reflection? A reflection that's simply waiting for you to change your inner state right now, in this moment, and give it something new and amazing to reflect.
Go to the description below the video and download ready-made materials for practical work. Get started today.